Look, I'd bless the rains out in Africa, but that's cultural appropriation and that's not on!
Oh, sarcasm. Excellent way to get people on side, idiot.
Yeah, I know.
Will he ever learn? Will he ever learn?
Never.
Oh, this is a show that we made for you, for your mom and your dad and your aunties too. So grab yourself a coffee, it's a crack pimp dawn, and strap yourself in for a heaps good morning.
It's another Heaps Good Sunday morning, and yet again we're here to delight and entertain.
And we're definitely informing. And it's stressful, and I'm a bit nervous about this.
Egads.
Look, it's gonna be controversial. Maybe not. It depends on how you feel. There's opinions. People have opinions. Ziggy was asked to do some research. He decided not to.
I was going to, and then I got sidetracked, and then I decided not to.
He got sidetracked. See, that's the typical part. But he's selling it like he made a conscious decision to be uninformed about this topic.
Yeah.
So that he could use his cisgendered white privilege to argue. No, I didn't mean to do that. That's what my hands do because I got bad hands. To, I guess, counterpoint or ask questions or whatever. So, today we are tackling cultural appropriation and this new thing, transracial. Because I watched the Rachel Doležal doco the other day. It's been a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd only heard of, bits and pieces on Facebook and...
People talk about it. Well, I'm from Texas, so nobody talks about Rachel Doležal.
Just get little snippets of bits and pieces of her on Facebook or whatever.
Well, everybody was talking about her in 2015, so this time 2 years ago, in mid-2015, and it's just kind of died down. And I had opinions back then. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know who she is, Rachel Doležal is a white woman from Washington in the States, who was on Wikipedia it says she's a former civil rights activist. I feel like if civil rights activist defines who you are, you will forever have those feelings and try to be active. But unfortunately, because of what happened, she can't be active in the scene. So she was a white woman in Washington who represented herself as a black woman and did a lot of, activism, and ended up being the president, the branch president of her chapter, so it's in Spokane, Washington, of the NAACP, which is the, oh shit. I looked it up the other day and I totally just left my brain. I didn't want to fuck it up because I said it wrong the other day and I was like, wait, that's too many letters. So it is, oh, that's right, because I was confused. So it's the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Okay,
now,
alright, yep.
I only have one thing to say about that because I just have a query. If anybody knows the answer, let me know. Because where I'm from, everybody my age, so knocking on 40, had a grandmother or great-grandmother that referred to black people as colored. That was their nice way of saying it because they were old and Republican and Southern. And we were always taught that was wrong, but the NAACP has kept that colored people, which now the appropriate term is people of color.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she became the president. Now, I don't know, because I didn't research this because I don't think it's important. I specifically didn't look it up. I don't think there's any rules that says in order to be a branch president, you have to be black. But I think it's just one of those unspoken kind of taken for granted things. So what happened was she was found out. Some kind of local news guy got wind of it and it became this huge thing. And I was conflicted because I was like, your race is your race.
Yep.
And I always joke around because I'm lucky enough to present very, very white. Mm-hmm. But there are people of color in my heritage.
Yeah.
Which makes me a person of color. I'm very white, skinned. My skin is very pale, except for in the summertime. I go quite dark, as you know. In the summertime, I'm 5 minutes in the sun and I'm Latin looking at best. But it's a privilege that I have, and I wear like a backpack, and people tell me inappropriate jokes and stuff like that, and I say, oh, funny, you assume that I identify as, you know, a white person, but really with all of the Native American and stuff like that, and the, you know, my bloodline is varied.
Yeah.
And not totally white, which is cool. I think that's cool. And in Australia, it happens a lot with people that have Aboriginal heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a friend in the past that was of Aboriginal descent, but she's blonde hair, blue-eyed, and people would say horribly racist things. But it's become quite a huge thing now because of cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
So I looked up the actual definition of cultural appropriation. It's a concept dealing with the adoption of the elements of a minority culture by members of the dominant culture. So cultural elements which may have deep meaning to the original culture may be reduced to exotic fashions or toys by those from the dominant culture. So the most obvious ones and the ones that people have probably heard a lot about are the Native American headdresses.
Mm-hmm.
Because that became cool to wear. I don't know how that happened, but people started wearing them to like music festivals. Which,
yeah.
I don't know. Music festivals are not the place I want 5 extra pounds on my head.
Was it the whole Jamiroquai thing? Did it get involved in like the disco scene or something like that? And then ravers?
Well, I don't know about that, but I guess it could have come from the... Who are the people that sing YMCA?
Oh, Village People.
Village People.
That should be on the tip of my tongue. I should know that.
So I don't know, maybe that's where it started. Who knows where it started, but people started wearing it. It became a huge issue. Native Americans banded together and spoke out against it and said it was insulting to their heritage and that Native American headdresses are representative of all kinds of things and that it's something that's earned and you can't just get around wearing them. Now, I've never seen this, but I've heard of plenty of women in Australia trying to play the didgeridoo, or people that buy them when they're on holiday in Australia.
Yeah.
And I know because of our presence in the Aboriginal community in the past and stuff like that, that women are not to play the didgeridoo.
So where does that stand with... Alright, so you've got sexism as well.
Okay.
So what's...
We're not going to get into that.
Because that's what it seems like a massive can of worms.
Oh, it is. It is. It's a huge can of worms. It's all a can of worms. We live in a can of worms nowadays. So the main ones that you see the most are Native American headdresses. And I have noticed in fashion and stuff lately, there have been and just in home decor, there's a lot of Native American references. Mm-hmm. So a lot of teepees and children's room stuff and bows and arrows and your stereotypical kind of cowboys and Indians thing, which they prefer not to be called Indians because they're not from India anyway. Mm-hmm. I say they, but I have Native American heritage. But they've all been together and said, please don't do it. People still do it. Mm. It's rude. It's gross. It's disgusting. Because it is iconic in their culture. It is symbolic and important and revered. And then you have like the bindi. Do y'all remember like Gwen Stefani wore the bindi?
That was like late 90s,
that was in the
mid,
wasn't it? Was it mid 90s? Well, in America, but in Australia it took another 5 years to trickle down. So bindi was a big deal. Henna. See a lot of henna hand tattoos. Yep. There's a woman in Adelaide locally that does it. I haven't researched it, but I know that she gets booked for a lot of parties and weddings and bridesmaids things and stuff like that. You see people when they go to Japan. And see, and the thing is, the Japanese culture, I just don't even want to do it. Like, I don't even want to get into this because it's such a huge deal. So, like, you can go to Japan and you can pay your $50 or whatever and pay to be dressed and have your makeup done and your hair done. Although you may wear a wig. I'm not sure about that because I never did it because I didn't think it was appropriate. But you can have your photo taken as a geisha.
Oh, don't worry about me. I'm just a vlogger. Gotta be careful to not, like, disrespect the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people don't know this, but geishas are still a part of... It's a dying art, but geishas are still active. They're active geishas, and it's a part of the Japanese culture, and only the Japanese culture. And then like I was saying earlier, the thing that really gets up my fucking asshole is the Day of the Dead stuff.
Yeah.
Is the... Oh, mate. let me just tell you
Because
how popular it is.
We don't get that in Australia.
No, but it's one of those kind of like, used to be the only people that really knew about it here were people that were into like rockabilly and stuff like that. I don't know why. It was just one of those things. But
they make candy skulls popular, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and like you see a lot of like, even we were in the States for Halloween, right? And now I'm from Texas, which is very close to Mexico. There's a huge Mexican American population in Texas because Texas was part of Mexico. And when America got Texas or bought it or won it, whichever storyline you want to follow, they didn't just all move. You know what I'm saying? So, and same with New Mexico and the southern part of California. There's a lot of Mexican American people.
Yeah.
And it was kind of worked into the fold of like Tex-Mex culture.
Yep.
So I grew up with it. I always knew of it. I always had lots of Mexican friends. You know, it was, well, not lots, a normal amount, you know, like per capita, like ratio, like acceptable amount of Mexican friends. I didn't only hang out with Mexican people, but so I was always aware of it. My family's really into Halloween, and it occurs in the same time of the year as Halloween, like the day after or whatever. And my mom was always really open about cultures. Fast forward 15 years, moved to Australia. I have opinions on this. I'm not going to go any further, but there is a team in a specific local sport, I'm not going to speak about, that completely appropriated that kind of imagery and color scheme. So their team is kind of based, which it wasn't originally supposed to be, but it kind of mutated into a Day of the Dead theme, which I always felt a bit funny about. But the thing that actually has only ever affected me about cultural appropriation, which affects you and affects Robin, is that now there are specific groups of people that are saying that dreadlocks are cultural appropriation. Now, as a bleeding heart liberal, I try very hard to not do things that people have rallied together and released a request to not do. I don't say the R word. I don't say the N word. I don't say any of the gay words. I don't even use gay as a substitute for stupid or lame or ridiculous or anything like that.
Kind of beating it out of me too.
Well, that's because it was beat out of me. Whether I was a card-carrying member or not. But dreadlocks seems to be a sticking point for me. Now, I don't have dreadlocks anymore, but I had, you know, like really full head of really long dreadlocks for a long time. And then I cut them all out, and then I grew my hair out, and I had them again briefly, and then decided that I wasn't digging it, and cut them all off again when we got back from the States the last trip. And I've been growing my hair ever since. As someone with dreadlocks, how do you feel about them? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about people telling you, let's just say someone approached you in the street. Say you went to the States with us. We were in Texas, and we're in Dallas or Fort Worth or whatever, which has a huge population of Black Americans or people of color. And someone approached you and just went right off. Because you see the videos.
Dude, Phil, you have no right to tell me what I can not read.
What do you think about that?
Well, I've been attacked a few times online before.
Have you?
Yeah. So...
And not because of your white privilege?
Not because of my white privilege. My thing with dreadlocks is... It is... Sure, it was a part of slavery and things like that for the
But it wasn't a significant role in slavery.
No.
It was just what their hair did.
But it was also significant. I've looked back as far as ancient Egyptians having dreadlocks.
Which are also considered people of color. Are you of Egyptian heritage?
No, but I am of Viking ancestry.
Well, that is the sticking point for me. So, like I said, I'm not white.
Yeah.
I have people of color heritage. But you look at Irish travelers.
Yep.
You look at the Finlandian and Scandinavian Vikings. Who did not wear those big horned helmets.
No.
You look at, and I'm just going to use this as an example, like Braveheart, the Scots.
Yep.
All considered part of the dominant white race.
Mm-hmm.
All of which, historically, had dreadlocks. Pirates, old pirates, you know, of all different cultures. You know, not all of them were white, and definitely none of them looked like Johnny Depp. They had dreadlocks because of lack of hair maintenance.
Yeah.
My niece, and I was thinking about inserting a picture, but I'm not going to, because even if I blurred out her face, my sister-in-law would not like that very much.
Yeah.
But she hates having her hair brushed, and she is strong-willed. And her hair dreads, and it is blonde, 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 and super fine. My hair, I don't know about you or anybody else, but my hair dreaded quite naturally.
Yeah.
In fact, some mornings I already have half a head of dreadlocks because I just refuse to wash my hair very often. And it's not that implied the whole like dirty hair thing. By washing, I mean washing, conditioning, brushing, drying.
Yeah.
So I feel like that one thing, that dreadlocks, and of course it's easy for me to say because of my assumed privilege, but I've had dreadlocks, you have dreadlocks, Robin's had dreadlocks, you know, I didn't have to do a whole lot of maintenance. You don't have to do any maintenance to your hair. It's just what your hair's doing. Mm. You know, I know plenty of people that go and have them done.
Yeah.
That's just because they want to look tidier. But I know plenty of black people that have their dreadlocks maintained. Mm. So I don't know. I'm funny about the dreadlocks. And then I was saying, you know, that kind of bleeds into the cornrows thing.
Yeah, because cornrows is very, like...
Black American.
Yeah.
But you look at African tribes that have elaborate braids and stuff, but still black culture. African American black culture. African culture. But then you go into, if they're going to be claiming cornrows, because I just read this whole article about hip hop culture, right?
Ooh.
So would you call hip hop a culture or a subculture? And does that mean that white people own the rockabilly culture? Or subculture? Because then you look at all those people in Japan. So in Japan, the dominant culture would be Japanese. Mm-hmm. But there is a huge psychobilly and rockabilly subculture in Japan. So then, what about kawaii? What about fruits? What about Lolita?
Yeah.
What about all of that? Is that cultural appropriation? So then it's like, well, what is it that, as someone that, and let's just say, assumedly, I present as quite white just because I stay out of the sun because of cancer, and heat, and because I like the night because I'm a witch. That was tongue in cheek. How am I supposed to dress? I'm wearing Jordans. Sneakers are a huge part of hip hop culture.
They are.
But hip hop's not just black people. You look at, you know, big hip hop artists. Macklemore, have you heard the new Macklemore song? It's pretty cool. Anyway, just saying.
Actually, love Macklemore.
Have you heard the new one? How to Play to Sleep? Mate, after we're done, we'll listen to it. It's good.
Right, awesome.
It's got a really amazing bass line because I love a good chunky bass. Anyway, so yeah, it's a mess. It's all a mess. And then like you go, that other thing, I looked them up so I didn't get it wrong, Bantu knots.
Yeah.
So that's like tiny buns all over your head, right?
Which is Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black.
She had Bantu knots.
Yeah.
Now, as someone that's trained in black hair, which I copped a lot of flack for that when I was nearing the end of my hair education in the States, due to a conflict of opinions, I had to make the decision to go to a different school for my last, 70 hours or some shit. I had some attendance problems. I had a lot on my plate. Anyway, I went to a black hair school. And it was cool. It was really cool. I learned all kinds of shit I never would have learned in white hair school. It was in a really, really questionable part of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
I met some really cool chicks. Got accused of being a snow sister. But
Snow sister?
Well, a snow sister, back then, this was a long time ago, but a snow sister was like a white chick that dated and predominantly procreated only with black boys. Men, sorry, not boys.
Oh! Men. Okay, alright.
So I went out with them one night. I don't club anyways, but they invited me out. Everybody's going out. Didn't want to be antisocial. So I went out with them. And I had a lot of confrontation that night because they thought the women of this club, and the men, I guess, thought I was there hunting for a strong black brother. And I was like, oh, no, I'm very gay. I've never dated a black chick. I've just never met one that struck my fancy.
Yep.
I don't date anymore because I'm married. But, you know, and in the South, things that are now being considered cultural appropriation, which is a slippery slope, are things that we always just assumed growing up in the 80s. If you saw a girl with braids or wearing kind of hip-hop urban attire and speaking in a certain kind of dialect, you just assumed she dated and hung out with black people. Yep. You know, it was just, and it's a huge population of people in the South. It's, some people have that particular flavor.
Yep.
So I don't know, it's a conundrum, you know? Are they culturally appropriate? So what brought this all on was Rachel Doležal. She has a documentary. It's called The Rachel Divide. Oh my God, it's so great. So great. Anyway, that's not even her name anymore. She goes by a different name. And it's like one of those names that has like 3 consonants in the beginning. So I don't know how to pronounce it. So her name is... Okay, Nkechi. Well, actually, we'll put it here. That's her new name. I don't know why that's so important, but anyway, so her name is of West African. Nkechi Amare Diallo. Well, I'm pronouncing that like it's of Latin base. Diallo. 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 Oh, anyway. Doesn't matter. She's changed her name. So the thing is, I thought transracialism, which the only definition I could find is really short. Across or crossing racial. Damn it. Across or crossing racial boundaries. So her name means gift of God. Mm-hmm. So a few things about her that I think are important to know is, well, first of all, how do you feel about that? Transracialism. I feel like in a society where we try to respect, or we should be respecting people's gender identity, sexuality, whatever they request their pronouns be, I try to abide by that. Who am I to say they can't? Yep. Whatever. My mother taught me very early. She had always been right into the gay scene in the like late 70s, early 80s. You know, we had a lot of homosexuals floating in and out of our family unit. My mom has a same-sex partner. We all know I do. Like, I'm gay. And, you know, with that came drag queens. And, you know, back then, you know, transgender wasn't really accepted. You'd use, they're a tranny or whatever, but
yep.
No one ever really explained to me the difference between transvestite, transgender, or anything like that. I know that now. I know the difference now. But do we have to spread that umbrella to people that identify as a different race?
I don't know, because at first I thought, no, that's just silly. But then you telling me about her story last week when we were talking about it, yeah. I thought that's circumstance.
That's what I think.
In these types of circumstances, why shouldn't she be able to express herself how she feels fit?
See, and that's how I came out of watching that very seldomly do I watch a documentary and go, there's been a shift in my thought process. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love, that's pretty much all I watch, documentaries. Because, you know, I'm just always wanting to know more. But like, so I have a friend that's from South Africa. Mm-hmm. His parent, or his mom and stepdad recently went back over, and he brought me, they brought back some stuff, and I got a bracelet, Robin got some bracelets, whatever, and I wore it for a long time until it started to fall apart, so I have to fix it. But anyway, I work with a lot of people from Africa. We have a lot of people from other countries that work for the government where I work, and I have had people ask me about the bracelet. Mm-hmm. And I said, a friend of mine's from South Africa, blah, 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 blah. If I were raised in South Africa, if I would say I was born in Dallas, Texas, my family is a missionary family, which is quite common in the South, and they shipped us, we all went to Africa. Mm-hmm. It's huge. There's all kinds of parts of Africa, but so we went to South Africa, just for example. And because I lived in South Africa, nowhere near the kind of city part of Zimbabwe, but out wherever, out bush, as an Australian would call it. And I was there for 20 years, and I came back to the States. Chances are I would have adopted at least style of dress or hairstyle. You know, I wouldn't be getting around in Jordans and torn jeans and an I Heart San Francisco t-shirt.
Yeah.
I would probably wear something a bit more culturally acceptable or more common in that part of Africa, right?
I mean, she was also accepted into other African families as well, wasn't she?
Okay, so I'll give you a few things that, I'm stuck!
Okay. I haven't even really gone much into what...
Well, because I don't want to ruin the doco for people.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll tell you a few issues that made me reconsider, or at least think about how I felt about it. So, she comes from a very religious missionary family who went to Africa, did some missionary work in Africa.
Yeah.
She grew up in Africa, surrounded by Africans.
Yeah.
Her family adopted several of them. Her parents. 4, I think. I think there was 4, 3 boys and a girl. So her family unit, while her parents were white, her community was black. Her brothers and sisters were all black. They also had, to hear her tell this story, quite a traumatic childhood. Her parents were not nice people. On the surface, they were missionaries and they were spreading God's word, but were actually quite abusive.
Yeah.
So when one of her brothers and one of her sisters, when they became old enough to abscond from their home, she was only like 18, 19 when the brother came, she petitioned the courts, ended up with custody of her brother. He grew up calling her mom, I believe. That part I'm pretty sure, but he referred to her as his mother. There wasn't a huge gap in their age, but he was black. He had problems at school, so he would tell people she was black because they were like, you got a white mom or whatever. Then as the sister got older and she had to get out of that home, Rachel went through all of her like garbage bags full of her shit, and the sister absconded and came to live with Rachel. But then the parents that she was at the time of filming the documentary, I think the sister had only just turned 17 or 18, and she was trying to battle the courts for custody of her sister. So it was one of those just series of unfortunate events, you know. It's not like she woke up one day and was like, fuck this, call me, actually I was going to say something that could have been misconstrued as racist, so I'm not going to, but, you know, refer to me as a different name, I'm black. You know, it was just this series of events. You know, culturally she was raised around black people, and not like black Americans, like Africans. Came back to the States in Washington, which has a huge black population in Washington State. She did a lot of activism. She was a civil rights activist, did a lot of work with the NAACP, and eventually became, in 2014, became the president of her branch of NAACP. Now that's where things got hinky. Because by the same time the next year, so she was only in office for about a year, she had been outed and she was forced to resign. When she moved out of home at very young, she met an older gentleman through the NAACP, and he took her under his wing. He mentored her. She went to Howard University, which is a predominantly black university. She did sue them, though, to get in, because she sued them because I'm not sure if they actually, you can research this on your own, I'm not sure if they said she couldn't come there because she was white. I doubt that they said that. It's like a famous university.
Yeah.
But in the end, she sued them for not being accepted because she was white. She ended up going to university there. She's an amazing painter. Like, she's amazingly talented. She does all these beautiful, thought-provoking paintings of, you know, old black women and, you know, the stuff that she grew up seeing in Africa.
Yeah.
She does black hair. Like, she is a black hairdresser. The problem is, in a time that is so tricky when it comes to racial divide, anyway, a lot of black women are up in arms. Black women, predominantly black women, because they say things like, she hasn't had to walk in their shoes. But if you listen to her story, she has.
Yeah.
Like, she totally has. She has mixed race children. She presented as a black woman. She wasn't in, like... Sorry, I'm just... My brain went somewhere else. So, I don't know if you know this, but there's this whole thing about Bruno Mars. Have you read anything about that? absolutely no research whatsoever. Just fuck it. He doesn't care. So Bruno Mars is, what do they call
a musician?
Well, yeah, he's a musician. But so he's done this recent video that is kind of a nod to the 90s hip-hop stuff. And it looks like, if you're my age group and you're from the South, or from the States, it looks like the intro to In Living Color. So there's a bunch of people like hip-hop dancing and stuff like that, and they're wearing all the bright clothes, and it's kind of like a fake urban setting. But some people think that he is relying on his racial ambiguity because he presents as a person of color, which he is. Yeah. He's Puerto Rican and Vietnamese or Filipino, one of the two. Don't quote me, but I think he's Filipino. But anyway, he's technically a person of color. But because he's ambiguously a person of color, they have a problem with him appropriating hip-hop culture. It's his whole thing. It's a whole thing. Investigate it. It's a whole thing. I mean, you go back and you look at Whitney Houston. Because she was a pop princess and she was marketed as a pop singer, the R&B and hip-hop scene booed her when she won an award, her first award. Booed her as a strong, independent black woman. Booed her because she was pop. She was on the pop charts. Instead of being like, hey, we got her in the pop charts, so we can fucking sneaky Pete our way into the pop scene. So anyway. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I just walked away from her documentary kind of thinking, is it environment? You know, like I know heaps of, I know how to fucking braid. Yeah. I dated a guy when I was younger, much younger. He had long hair. I used to cornrow his hair. All of his friends, the part of Fort Worth that he grew up in was fucking broke down, funky town, bad part of Fort Worth. He grew up speaking like all the hip hop people on the radio. He raps now. He has a music label thing. Him and all of his mates, you know, they do graffiti.
Well, surely your culture comes from not just your background, but your environment. I
mean, if my culture came from just my background, then I would be on a reservation. You know, or what else do we have? We have all kinds. You know, I'd be traveling the world because of the traveling side. I'd be eating kraut in Germany because I have German heritage. I don't think that your specific, how you present to anybody is based just on your bloodline. Do you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I actually don't have an opinion on the transracial thing. I don't have an opinion. I think that the problem we have now as a society, as a Western society, is that we still are succumbing to labels. Yeah. I think that's the problem. If people weren't so hell-bent on labeling people, and if everyone could just be fucking nice to each other, regardless of what label you assume is attached to them, then we wouldn't have so many problems. And we wouldn't have to be going, is transracial a thing? Should she be, you know, and now, because of all of the kerfuffle, because the reporter that asked her the question, he was like, is your father black? Or is your dad black? Or something like that. He just sabotaged her outside of a dry cleaner or something. And she's like, what? And he started hammering her. It was like, your father, you know, would you say your father is black? Well, she affectionately referred to that mentor of hers as dad. He was black. And she was like, I don't understand why you're asking this. If you come from a traumatic childhood, whether your parents think it's traumatic or you think it was traumatic, is it fair for someone to throw that in your face because they want a story? That would have been fairly traumatic to her. If she had been abused in such a manner that she had been kept in a cage and pissed on and fed dog food or something like that, people would be up in arms that she was confronted that way. Yep. Because she adopted her brother, and her brother was having problems at school, and he just started telling people that she was black. Was it because they didn't have such severe problems that it was in the news? But do you know what I'm saying? At what point do we draw the line and say, but you weren't abused enough. You weren't in Africa long enough. You haven't had enough black children. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
See, I always thought that a cultural melting pot was a good thing.
I think so too. But then, and look, don't get me wrong, in America, the problem with the divide between white and black is because of the horrible way Black Americans ended up in America.
Yep.
The way they were treated, slavery is not gone. Slavery isn't a dead thing. It's not a dead word. It's not like Latin.
Yeah.
Like, there's all kinds of slavery that still exist.
Mm-hmm.
Child slavery, sex slavery. But we can never make that right as someone that presents as white.
Yeah. That
people assume I'm white. We can't ever make that right. We can't make it okay that your, ancestors were treated that way. You can't undo something like that. That trauma is kind of residual and it stays around. But are we continuing it? Like, are we... And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell anybody how to feel. It's not my place to tell all of Black America, get over it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, are we perpetuating it? Like, creating further and further divides? I mean, don't you think Trump's doing that enough for us?
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe I even said the name. I've been trying really hard to stick to that one. I don't know. Her book is called In Full Color, Finding My Way in a Black and White World. I think she sold like 300.
Oh, really?
Or something. I've been trying to find it. I can't find it. I want to read the book because she just gets so sabotaged. Like, people would invite her onto their show and then they just sabotage her. And it's usually like black talk shows and stuff.
Yep.
And she just gets sabotaged, and her, like, brother, who she's raising as her son, is, like, going to university now, and it's just, it's sad, because all the work that she did for the NAACP and Black America as a whole, she did heaps of activism, heaps of protesting, heaps of all kinds of stuff. It's all been undone because of, people that disagree with how she did it.
Yeah.
And it's tricky. So, do we come out dreadlocks? What do we do? Is transracialism a thing? I mean, I guess technically a bandana, although cowboys used to wear bandanas over their face, that's where I mean, you don't see me wearing a sombrero.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me started on that. So I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer for you. The media tried really hard to make her look like a fucking idiot. I think she made a mistake. So I don't know. I know it's a lot of information. I know I bombarded everybody. I know I hijacked this one, but that's because you didn't do any research. What do you think? What are your closing thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a bit the same. I don't have an opinion. I really don't. Circumstantially, I think she has every right to do what she chooses to do. Do I think it's okay for everybody?
Probably not.
Probably not. But as I said, I do believe that a cultural melting pot is a good thing.
Agreed. I think it's one of those things I don't have to worry about, like circumcision and vaccination.
Yep.
And I'm lucky that I don't have to worry about it because I couldn't make a decision.
Yep.
It would be a rushed decision. So maybe in the future when I've made a decision, we'll be like, I've made my decision! Everybody, hear ye, hear ye! But I don't know. Watch the doco.
Yeah.
The Rachel Divide. It's on Netflix. Read the book. Online, something. Throw a couple of bucks.
Yep.
Investigate her at all. Wikipedia, but it's got some info. I don't know. Just treat each other with respect. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No.
None of it matters. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Guys, come on. Just be nice. Stop
Ain't that
kicking
hard?
puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a bit of heart. Alright, I guess that's
Alright,
it. That's
yep.
heavy. But anyway, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Our future is at your multi-racial fingertips.
And also don't forget to click the bell icon. Don't forget to click the bell icon at the top of the page to keep up to date with our episodes. We're usually here every week. And yeah, that's pretty well it.
Oh, new logo's done.
Oh yeah, so that should be coming hopefully in the next week's episode. So yeah.
And we're going to rearrange the studio.
Yeah.
Alright.
Awesome. Alright, catch us later.
Bye.
Bye.